Hello there. Thank God it is a Friday. You're welcome to the Uganda Catholic Television. It is UCTV News right about now with me, Sunday Gloria Borch. It is one of Uganda's most iconic places of worship, a cathedral that has stood for over a century as a symbol of enduring faith. Lubaga Cathedral also serves as the final resting place for some of the nation's most influential Catholic leaders. Tonight, we take you through the inside of the sacred spaces where bishops and priests lie in eternal peace and uncover the rich history their graves silently preserve.
Right on the top of the serene crest of Rubaga Hill, St. Mary's Cathedral is more than just the mother church of the Archdiocese of Kampala. It is a sacred resting place of faith and legacies of Uganda's Catholic leadership. Inside these red brick walls lies the remains of some of the most influential shepherds of the Catholic Church in Uganda. The first to be laid here was Bishop Eduardo Michand, a Canadian missionary of the White Fathers who served as the Vicar Apostolic of Uganda from 1933 until his death in 1945. His dedication to spreading the gospel in Uganda left an indelible mark, and his burial inside the cathedral marked the beginning of a tradition. Besides him rests Archbishop Joseph Kiwanuka, the first native African Catholic bishop appointed Archbishop of Rubaga in 1960. His leadership was pivotal in the early years of Uganda's independence, and his passing in 1966 was mourned across the nation. His burial within the cathedral signified the church's deep respect for his service and his role in shaping the Catholic identity in Uganda. In April 2021, Archbishop Cyprian Kizito became the third prelate to be interred here. His final resting place lies between Bishop Michand and Archbishop Kiwanuka, a symbolic gesture linking three generations of spiritual leadership. Archbishop Rwanga was remembered not only for his pastoral voice, but also for his courage in speaking truth to power. Rubaga Cathedral's sacred grounds extend beyond the high altar. In a quiet courtyard lies a priest's cemetery, where devoted servants of the church are buried. Among them is Monsignor Charles Chimbowa, ordained in 1960, a long-time secretary to Cardinal Emmanuel Nsubuga. Monsignor Chimbowa's life was one of quiet yet profound service, and his burial here in 2020 reaffirmed the cathedral's role as the final home for the clergy. However, not all prelates are buried at Rubaga. Cardinal Emmanuel Nsubuga, Uganda's first indigenous cardinal, chose to be laid to rest at the Bakatayamba home he founded for the elderly and the vulnerable. His choice reflects a deeply personal tradition within the church that bishops' will can determine the final resting place, even outside the cathedral walls. The practice of burying bishops within the cathedral stretches back centuries, rooted in the early church's tradition of laying its leaders to rest near the lyrics of saints and martyrs. Here, at Rubaga, those interned are not just remembered in plaques and marble, but in the living memory of the church that continues to draw strength from their example. Rubaga Cathedral stands not only as a place of worship, but also as a silent chronicle of the men who guided the faith in Uganda. Within its walls, their stories remain interwoven with the story of the nation's Catholic journey, steadfast, unshaken, and alive in the hearts of the faithful.
The People's Progressive Party, PPP, has today held a presidential debate between two contenders vying to become the party's flag bearer for the 2026 general elections. The candidates, who include Judge William Mugera and Henry Serunjoji, each presented persuasive manifestos focusing on federalism and revitalizing Uganda's agricultural sector.
So my appeal is that as we enter the segment of presentation of ideas, we should bear in mind the core values of PPP. That's why It doesn't matter how much we disagree with that party. When they invite us, we always go, because you can't dialogue with somebody you don't sit with. You can't reconcile with somebody you can't sit with. Even when you disagree, you can only reconcile with such a person when you are closer to that person. So those are the core values.
In 2005, in February, I embarked on a journey which is now 20 years to date, and my goal was to bring change to a small group of people, contribute to the nation. So I engaged into charitable work. So I've done that for 20 years. The challenge at the time was education, healthcare, and income. It is still the challenge today, 20 years ago. If I ask anyone in this room today, I'll ask you a question. I can ask a volunteer if you want to. If you receive phone calls in a day, and let's imagine there are 10, how many people are going to call you to say, "Hi, are you okay?" Mobilize civilian role. We are saying, establish a civilian transition commission that will audit all military interferences, including the National Executive Committee. Actually, dismantle the National Executive Committee because it is covered into our Constitution and nobody talks about it. Article 274 of Uganda's Constitution says all the laws that were said, discussed, and planned between 1986 to 1995 should all be included in the Constitution and cannot be interpreted by Parliament.
This is not just an event maybe you are covering, but one that I am very much convinced it's an event that is going to go down in your books of history as one of the major events that you witnessed occurring. So I welcome you. Thank you for coming over. George and I have had some distance in the past months. I am very sure there are people who are waiting for certain moments, because that's what politics has taught very many.
That's it with our foreign news stories. It is time now for Today in History. And with the Rome Reports wraps up the Friday edition of Uctv News. My name is Sunday Gloria Aboch. All I wish you is the very best of the weekend.